Hey everybody, Talk here, and today I'm doing pretty much nothing that has to do with actual real-world history, but has to do with Star Wars history. I've done several Star Wars videos. You know I like Star Wars. You guys like Star Wars, so it's all great. Now, I'm not going to talk about the real-world crap that went down with this, other than to mention that that's what sparked me doing this video. Tim Rose got treated kind of shitty. There's really no other way to say that. On his final day of casting for The Last Jedi, a movie you all know that I hate, but that's not here nor there, and they just kind of treated Ackbar as a joke. But we're not going to do that here. This isn't going to be the first video. Sorry. This is going to be the first video in a series of videos about Ackbar's life. I'm not going to go super in detail because holy crap. This dude has been around for a long time. Of course, he's in Return of the Jedi, and then he pops up for the first time in Zahn's book. I don't remember which part of the Thrawn trilogy he's in, but I think he's in the first one as the Supreme Commander of the not the Rebel Alliance, the New Republic at that point, because the Rebel Alliance had now transitioned to that job. And from there, he kind of just kept on rolling for 21 years in universe before his eventual death. But we'll be starting a little early on, during the Dark Time, so 19 BBY, that is 19 years before the Battle of Yavin. That's how we try it. That's how we do time here in Star Wars. We use everything off of the Battle of Yavin and go forward or backward, or vice versa, depending on how it is. So, I'm not covering the stuff from the Clone Wars because, canonically speaking, the Clone Wars is a mess because we don't know how everything interacts with everything else, and it's just, it stays over there. It's not in this. We're talking about all the old stuff, not that, because that's confusing. So, how did Ackbar's career start? Well, barring Clone Wars stuff, because he was apparently involved in that, he was part of the ruling council of Mon Calamari, which is pretty good, actually. It's one of the higher ranked people. And he was, this is going to shock you all, initially okay with the Empire, because he thought it would bring peace and law and order and justice and stability and all good things that the New Republic had been sorely, or the Old Republic had sorely been missing over the past decades. It hadn't been a good time. I should actually at some point go into the politics of the prequel wars, because this is going to shock you, the Confederacy had several good points. So they had valid arguments as to why they were rebelling. Points to the cartoon for actually pointing some of those out, so good for them. But, so he was part of that. He was abashed of this notion very quickly, because the Empire, being extremely humanocentric, showed up and decided that, hey, these guys are a threat because they have all sorts of crazy awesome technology, and we can't be having that, you know. So, what they did is, they swooped on in and proceeded to bash the crap out of them and subjugated Mon Calamari, or DAC, as it is also called by the Mon Calamarians. Well, let's just put it this way, Ackbar wasn't happy. He attempted to initially negotiate with them to get them to go away, because what the hell are you doing? We're your subjects, this is ridiculous. And it didn't go well, so he started the Mon Calamari resistance movement, and threw the Empire off the planet. Score one for Ackbar already. Things seemed to be going well, and then things immediately went wrong when they came back and clobbered them. And Mon Calamari stayed that way for a while. It was not a good time. In fact, they were all enslaved, including Ackbar. He was initially going to be used as an interpreter, but was given to Grand Moff Tarkin, at that point just a Moff Tarkin, as really a way for the guy giving him to gain favor. He was used then as a personal valet, because he started to pretend to be extremely placid and like he was broken. He just kind of went along with anything Tarkin went, and Tarkin really enjoyed digging that knife in there. He loved showing Ackbar all his nice charts and plans on how he was going to conquer and subjugate more worlds. And Ackbar just sat there going, yes, please tell me how I can kick your rear end. Please continue to tell me all of your strategies and how you think and how I can crush you later on. He became a spy for the Rebel Alliance, actually. because he found out about them. So he began sending them covert messages because he could see information laid out before him. He could find out all sorts of things that they needed to know, and he would feed this to them. In fact, he is the one who fed them the information about when Tarkin and... I'm not even going to try to pronounce the developer of the Death Star's name because I'm going to butcher it. It's like Levelisk? There's a bunch of consonants and I don't like it. I don't like the combination of letters. Anyway. So, Ackbar told them that they were leaving Eriadu. He was piloting the shuttle because he was being used as a Tarkin valet. And... well, the rebels showed up and proceeded to beat the crap out of the shuttle, attempting to capture Tarkin or possibly assassinate him if necessary. However, an Imperial Star Destroyer showed up, and that didn't work out so well. Upside, Ackbar got away. So they got Ackbar out of this, which was a secondary objective, so they got a win out of this. Not quite the win they wanted, but a win nonetheless. Now this brought Admiral Ackbar, well not Admiral yet, just Ackbar, into the fleet. And he immediately swore his loyalty to the Rebel Alliance. Now, upon this, they realized that this guy's really smart. He's probably fairly good. So they made him a captain. He did fairly well for a little while, and then eventually became Admiral. Now, I know I'm breezing over a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that he kind of does in here that's sort of glossed over. So we're jumping right into his first big event. So Ackbar made it back, and he was made captain of the fleet. He went back to Mon Calamari, and then proceeded to try to get some rebel air wings up and to fight back against the Empire. It didn't go terribly well for him. The Imperial presence on the planet was very heavy, and they pretty much obliterated him every time he tried to do anything, and the morale of the Mon Calamarians was extremely low. So eventually he left and was put in charge of a small battle fleet. And this is where the Battle of Turkana happened, and this is going to be the primary subject of the video. Now, the Battle of Turkana is extremely important, even though it doesn't seem that way. And I'll get into that at the end of this. So the Battle of Turkana pits Admiral Ackbar versus Samuel Lennox. Now, you probably don't know who the hell Lennox is. He's the guy from Empire Strikes Back who goes, "Oh good, it's our first catch of the day," and then promptly gets blasted by the ion cannon. That's him. Now, he was leading... Now, he was told by the Imperial intelligence that there was a fleet at Turkana of approximately 6 to 8 rebel capital ships with some escorts. They were correct. The fleet consisted of 7 Mon Calamari cruisers of the MC-80 variety, 2 Nebulon B frigates, 2 CR-90 corvettes, 4 medium transports, 1 tanker, and multiple squadrons of fighters. This is the rebels, of course they have these. Now, the tanker is exactly what it sounds like. Just to clarify this, it is a giant fuel tanker. It's so they can refuel, rearm, etc., etc. It's very important for them. Now, they decided, the sector governor decided to send 10 Imperial Star Destroyers. This is a lot. It's not a small group. That's a very large concentration of firepower. Understandable, considering there are 7 enemy capital ships. You would like to outnumber them, especially because you can. So, and they went under Lennox. Now, under Lennox's command was a captain named Captain Firmus Piet. Yes, that Piet, who becomes Admiral Piet. More on him in a bit. Now, when they come in under Attack Pattern Tartarus. Now, what this is that they use data from scout ships ahead of them so they can come in right on top of the enemy. Now, what this is I don't mean literally sitting right on top. They come out of hyperspace close. So, here's you. You would expect the enemy to come out here. This is a general safe distance. They come in more here. They jump in long-range turbo laser fire range, instead of just outside of it and have to move in. This gives them multiple advantages in the fact that you're now surprising your opponent and can fire immediately, completely catching them off guard. This actually went fairly well for the Imperials initially. They came swooping in and began pummeling into them. Now, Ackbar, recognizing what this tactic is, as he studied this under Tarkin and seen it multiple times, gave the command for them to give evasive maneuvers and to launch fighters as fast as possible, as the Imperials were draining their ships of their own TIE fighters, TIE interceptors, because they had those at this point, and TIE bombers to go and destroy the rebel ship's sublight drive so they couldn't escape, and then so they could pummel them into nothing but molten slag in space. Now, Ackbar had one primary advantage on his side. He had the T-65 X-Wing. The ship was brand new at this point. These had just been coming off the lines as Incom had recently defected from the Empire, as they'd found out they were going to be nationalized because the Empire didn't want anybody else getting their hands on the X-Wing, for good reason. So, as this battle goes on, Piett notices that those are T-65 X-Wings, and he tells his commanding officer, Lennox, that they have to change battle tactics because those things are extremely dangerous. Lennox ignores him and continues on with the attack, firing at long range with his turbo lasers, while the fighters go in largely unsupported. This is a crucial mistake. 2 squadrons of T-65 X-Wings engage the multiple squadrons from three of the Imperial Star Destroyers. No particular numbers are given here, but we're talking per one, it's about 12 total. So they're outnumbered heavily. However, the T-65s have several advantages. They have their shields, they are nearly as maneuverable, and they have more firepower. On top of this, it has now reached the point where there are too many on one side for the other to properly engage. So they, the TIE fighters, have to now watch where they are shooting, whereas the X-Wings don't. So, the T-65s, one of the squadrons being Red Squadron, yes, the Red Squadron from A New Hope, which eventually becomes Rogue Squadron, the feared bane of the Empire, swoop in and tie up so many of the TIE fighters. They are raking a massive toll upon these ships. So much so that the Y-Wings can come blazing through, catch the TIE fighters that are coming, TIE bombers, sorry, that are coming through, and hammer them. Now, the Y-Wing is clearly better as a bomber, but it is significantly more maneuverable and far better armed and armored than a TIE bomber, meaning in a dogfight, it's going to win. Now, Piett notices this and takes his own Star Destroyer in to cover them, and he begins wreaking his own toll upon the Y-Wings. Now, at this point, one of the TIE bomber squadrons is able to break away and destroy the sublight drives on one of the Mon Calamari cruisers. This is the most severe damage that the Rebel forces are going to take. They are getting hammered at this point, but the Mon Calamari cruisers' incredible durability is keeping them intact right now while they trade fire with the much more offensively oriented Imperial Star Destroyers. However, Piett has made a slight error here. While he went in and proceeded to save his bombers, he underestimated, or rather overestimated, how many TIEs he had left. Now, this is where things go badly for the Imperials. With all of the TIEs gone, they no longer have a screen, which means the Y-Wings that are left, and they've taken heavy casualties, proceed to fly up at the Imperial Star Destroyer. The X-Wings, meanwhile, that are no longer engaging the stragglers of the interceptors and the TIE fighters, also come flying in, because they too are armed with proton torpedoes. Now, they don't have anywhere near as many, or they can not fire as rapidly as a Y-Wing, but they still have them, meaning they will tend to fire them in a large group. Multiples will attack at once, fire, and then they'll all veer off together. They concentrated their fire on the bridge sections of the shield, of the deflector shield arrays, and proceeded to hammer the various close-range Star Destroyers, because Piett had ordered more of them to come in support in formation Abaddon, proceeding, which is very close-range fire. We're talking, it's effectively everything. You get in close enough that every single gun you have can be brought to bear on the enemy. This was his mistake, because now the fighters could get in real close, and this is where what is known as trench run syndrome became readily apparent. Trench run syndrome is named, of course, after the Death Star, but it also applies to Imperial Star Destroyers, as they have absolutely terrible point defense weapons, meaning the snub fighters can effectively engage with impunity. So they fired and started inflicting massive damage upon the various Star Destroyers. This forced Lennox to withdraw from the battle. So Lennox, having to withdraw with all of his ships, ran to a nearby system, This gave Ackbar enough time to get all of his ships back together, patch up the sublight drives on his one ship enough, bring in who was left, and get the hell out of Dodge. Now, this is the Rebel Alliance's first fleet victory. And yes, I know technically this is a draw, but as far as the Rebels are concerned, they won. Because the goal of the Empire was destroy their fleet. The Rebels didn't lose their fleet and inflicted, well, not a ton of casualties, but they just wreaked horrible damage upon the TIEs. The TIEs were shredded, while losing significantly fewer in comparison. This was a good trade for them, and they were able to escape and learn more tactics. Sadly, Piet also learned more, and he actually made several reports afterwards detailing various ways to deal with the new improved fighters of the Rebellion. The T-65 X-Wings were something he was very concerned about. Primarily, his methodology was to use more interceptors because they're far faster, and this would allow them to have a slight edge over the T-65s. He was also generally one to be a little more conservative in his usage of force, not one to just go flying in as Lennox did. Now, this is really the first big win for Ackbar. Ackbar's done pretty well up to this point, but the Battle of Turkana is his big moment, and this is what catapults him forward. This is what eventually makes him the supreme fleet commander of the entire Rebel Alliance. But I'm not going to go into that, because this video is long enough already, and I'm going to keep going down this glorious, glorious fishman's history. So, I hope you stay tuned. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'll be bringing you more later. So remember, everybody, it's a trap!